This is from Robert Twilley at LSU.
I'm Robert Twilley. I'm going to give a quick overview of the data sets we've collected on Delta X. I want to thank Andre Revi and Andy Cassaway for being the responsible parties of compiling this information. Pretty much what we're going to see is, and I'll explain this in our 30-minute project overview. The data set's made up of collections at 6 sites, 3 in an active basin, 3 in an inactive basin, and in each basin we have sites distributed across the salinity gradient. This really sets up and explains, it's a very important figure because the data sets are organized around this hierarchy. First, each data point is defined as active or inactive coastal basin. Where is it located along the salinity gradient, freshwater, brackish, and saline? Where is that site? What is the hydrogeomorphic zone? What's basically the elevation of that site from which that data point was collected, and what's the localized effect, which is that site along the edge versus the interior. The data are again looking at surface accretion rates, and we use a cryo-core technique to look at a change in elevation above a marker horizon after a certain amount of time of deposition. The data sets are again uploaded using the Delta X format. We upload these relative to when there are updates. Presently, we have a second version. You'll see in the second version 2, we have a campaign this fall, and we'll have a new update, version 3, and that will be coming up. There are descriptions of the data set. Again, what's really critical is that the description and the data set are all organized around that hierarchy, at which we define the hypotheses that we've been testing. And again, it's an example of what each of the parameters that we've posted. We have a user guide that is available to help explain exactly, again, all the data sets that were collected. Not only do we have accretion rates, but we have the organic and inorganic content, the bulk density, and the organic carbon content of the sediments collected. Again, here's an overview, and that's related to describing each of the data points that were collected. We have the description of the sites. Most of the sites, except for the Wax Lake Delta sites, are located also at corresponding CRIM sites. And what's also very important, since each of the samplings reference a campaign of 6-month intervals approximately. So it's also, I haven't mentioned that, it's really important when you look at the data set that you really understand the time stamp of when the sites were repeatedly measured for the parameters that we've collected. Again, here's the data characteristics, and you'll notice, again, for instance, it follows the hierarchy that I showed you earlier. What basin is it in? What salinity gradient? What's the hydrogeomorphic elevation? And what's the local site characteristics? And then I didn't mention soil bulk density, but here again, the parameters I mentioned that are located or that we collected at each of the sites, at each of the campaigns, again, that are on approximately a 6-month time interval. And then there's also descriptions that's available that give you more background on the methodologies. Again, there's the distinction in organic matter from organic carbon. which is by, one using a technique of loss on ignition, another using a carbon analyzer. But what's important is that these samples have also been fumigated. So just the details of exactly the chemical methodologies are included as well. And there was background data relative to explaining the sites and some of the definitions that are used, particularly the hydrogeomorphic characteristics. You can see the paper referenced Bevington and Twilley in 2018. And again, the different versions that have been released. Here's the actual data set. And, just to reiterate, I need to wrap up. Again, these headings here are defined relative to the hypothesis, the hierarchy. And it's very important that and also the fact that we repeated back to these sites approximately on a 6-month basis to collect information. And we do again have the accretion rate. We have the times. Well, that's the absolute measurement in the field. That's the absolute accretion with the length of time in between the different sampling dates, and that gives you accretion rates. Here's just an example. Again, I've gone through these, but you can, with the data set, you can look at frequency of the various parameters shown here, 7 parameters that we've have in the data set for you to look at with the timestamp and identified length of time in between sampling. You can plot surface accretion versus this length of time, and of course that will give you accretion rates. And so here's type of analysis that's available by the data set that we've posted, which you can look at trends, and I'll talk about these in my 30-minute presentation. So that's a quick overview of our data sets we've collected. Thank you very much.